Welcome. So, you're ready to start creating piggyback books, but what are the rules to sell them on Amazon? And what should you really be thinking about before you create your first piggyback book? Let's run through some answers to those common questions. So the goal of today's video is to share some success factors for piggyback books. So what do you need to think about to make sure that your first book can be as successful as possible? What rules does Amazon have, and how can you make sure that you're following them, including copyright considerations? And then we're going to look at the planning process to give you some actionable tips and feedback about how you can think through creating your first or 30th piggyback book. Piggyback publishing, as you're probably aware, is simply creating additional books that are related to something that is already published. This is a fantastic niche because you get to tap in to an audience that is already excited about the product. For example, Harry Potter fans go gaga over any additional Harry Potter content that you can create, whether it's a coloring book, a cookbook, a spell book. And it's not just about Harry Potter. Any sort of new diet book, fiction or nonfiction bestseller, any of those has an already created fan base that is looking for more content or summaries, cliff notes, discussion guides. The possibilities are endless. Essentially, people want to access content more easily, and piggyback books are a great way to offer that solution to them. When you first start publishing piggyback books, you need to identify the key factors that are going to help ensure your books are successful. So the first one would be branding. This is identifying which book or series of books you're piggybacking on and making sure that professional. The second one is length. If you are summarizing a 300-page book, you don't want to give someone a 200-page summary. You need to make sure that the length of what you're producing, it makes sense. You want to hone in on the keywords that people are going to be searching to find your content, and then you want to make sure that you've chosen a popular niche. So if you're picking something from 30 years ago that was not a very popular book, that's probably not going to be a good choice. You're going to want to either pick something that has enduring popularity, Jane Austen, for example, or you're going to want to pick something that is currently really popular. So you'll see here one example of branding. Essentially, you need to decide if you're going to be publishing a series of books so that they can all be branded the same. This one is published under the cheat sheet there, Master Getting Things Done in 2 Minutes. So people know that they love the cheat sheet books. And so if they're looking for more in the future, they'll be looking for this red sort of bar with the cheat sheet on it. We already talked a little bit about length, but I think it's useful for you to know that the average piggyback book goes from about 15 to 50 pages, depending on what it is you're writing about. It's very important that you're following Amazon's guidelines. So I've included a link here you can go to read a little bit more about those guidelines. But to quickly sum it up for you, your title needs to begin with summary, study guide, or analysis if it's what you're creating. The contributor or the author of the original book does not appear in the contributor field when you go to publish your book on Amazon. And then your content should be categorized in the study aid category. For example, study aid book notes. If you're creating something like a coloring book or content that's going to be sort of your own creation, a cookbook, for example, instead of the summary, study guide, or analysis, you'll be putting that in the correct category for whatever that content is. When you start thinking about planning your book, obviously you're going to want to pick a specific niche. So if you've said, okay, my niche is cookbooks based on popular kids shows, that's fine. You've got your niche. You're ready to start going. What you don't want to do is say, oh, I'm going to make one study guide about Jane Austen. I'm going to make a coloring book about Octonauts, and I'm going to make a Walking Dead cookbook. When you're first starting, pick one niche so you can get comfortable in it. And then once you've kind of figured that niche out, if you want to branch out, do that at that point. It also helps to pick a niche because you can have sort of the content template or the structure that we've been talking about. So your very first study guide might take you a while, but after you've made that first one, all of the study guides that you write after that can have the same formatting and the same layout, so that it gets faster and faster to create them. Another really great tip that I recommend is once you've figured out your niche, you should browse on Amazon to see what your competition is. Amazon has a really handy feature called the Look Inside feature that can let you see how your competitors are organizing their books and what they're writing about. Let's take a really quick look at that. Okay, I've got a couple examples here of piggyback books. So the first one is The Science of Harry Potter. So this author obviously is someone who maybe they're a science teacher, they really love science, and so they decided to actually go through the Harry Potter books and write about how each of the sort of magical things could be or could not be created with science. So we've got the look inside option there. When you click on it, it actually lets you see portions of the book. One of the portions that I think is the most important is being able to look at the table of contents. So here I can see all of the different things that they're writing about and how they've organized it. Another example I have here is a summary of a popular diet book called The Plant Paradox. You can see this one is pretty popular. 338 people have given it a little over 4 stars, and it has the look inside option as well. So here I can see how they've set it up, and they're summarizing each chapter with key knowledge pointers at the end. So it's almost like a summary and then a bulleted summary list. Of course, it is really important to always consider copyright. You don't want to have any legal issues. I recommend including a disclaimer in your book. And of course, you cannot quote large sections of the original or pass off what the original is saying as your own words. So these need to be clearly labeled as summaries if that's what you're making. And you need to be sure that you are summarizing, you're not copying. To learn even more about creating short piggyback content and selling it on Amazon, check out my Piggyback Publishing Profits. You'll learn the latest and most relevant piggyback related information so you can turn this profitable genre into a gold mine. It's perfect for people who want to create popular books, publishers looking to branch out into new income streams, and of course, beginners looking for rinse and repeat strategies to grow their publishing empire. You can get it now on my website, amyharrop.com, and it is Piggyback Publishing Profits.